I thought I'd just take this video because I got into this kind of pretty section of Tennessee. I'm on my way from Newport, which is not that far from Gatlinburg. I say that I do Newport, where my friends Alan and Monica live, near there. Anyway, so I'm decided to drive up to Gettysburg. I'm going to probably take 2 days to do it, but so I'm just winding my way through Tennessee, going northeast towards Gettysburg, and I decided at least part of the way I don't want to take the expressway. So I'm headed from Newport, Tennessee, which is in eastern Tennessee, all the way to Elizabethton, Tennessee, which is near Virginia. And then I would probably go through Virginia and then probably West Virginia if I still decide not to take the expressway. And like I say, I prefer not taking the expressway, but you know, I don't want it to take me a week to get to Gettysburg, but we'll just play it by ear. But anyway, I just came to this section of East Tennessee on this road, really very few vehicles. Sunday morning, well, I shouldn't say morning anymore, it's almost noon. But I just thought it'd be nice to take a little video. It's beautiful. What's the temp? Well, it's 50 degrees. Sunny. A lot of little farms out here. I think cattle farms than anything. Oops, there's EMS. So just take a little video and see how eventful this might be, or uneventful for that matter. I like looking at a lot of these little buildings and seeing what they were or what they are as well. Sometimes little gas stations along these routes that from the 20s, but nonetheless, anything to me is interesting, and just the scenery itself is really pretty. And you figure this is February 20th, so obviously it's winter, but there's little green grass here and there, and of course there's the coniferous trees and everything that make it green, and the rolling hills, and it's just very pleasant and peaceful and relaxing, even though I'm driving, so I can't totally relax, obviously. But I just kind of I like the squiggly roads. I like the winding up and down that we don't get in Chicago. Unless you're in Beverly, you get one hill and some squiggly roads. But other than that, it's very limited. So I just kind of like taking video, and I did this out west all the time too, right in the middle of the sand hills and everything. Just take not a random video, so to speak, but a you know, for no particular reason other than to just show the terrain and the landscape, which I'm doing here. And it's funny, you look one direction and it doesn't look like there's any mountains, but then you look in another direction, you see these big old mountains. And see, a guy waved to me before I even waved to him, but I did wave back. I like that feeling. I really do. It's, you know, and again, it's based on the fact that there aren't that many people out here, and might not many people that take this road, except the people who live along this road, except goofballs like me who decide to take the pathless traveled, being the shunpecker that I am. But there's big mountains to my, I don't know necessarily what my screen is showing, because I have it basically straight, and I didn't want to do it too wide because then it shows a lot of my dashboard. But
in a quarter mile, turn right to stay on Cedar Creek Road.
Oh, I'm supposed to turn right? I think I heard something. It'll tell me again. I'm going slow enough that I can make changes, or, you know, affect a change. But just I mean, this is not isolated in a sense. There's a lot of people that live here, even like a little community here.
Take the next right to stay on Cedar Creek Road.
Oh, well, I have to make a right or left, and I hear her say right, so I think that's what I shall do.
Continue on Cedar Creek Road for 3 miles.
Now you can see the mountains over there. Little roadkill. That's a lot of that. This guy behind me wants to go pretty fast. Must be a native, so when I can pull over, I'll pull over. But I just like these roads because they're, like I say, I'm not on an isolated part of the Appalachians, but it's just much more pleasant to drive this way than it is on the expressway. I'll let her go. I think it was a her. Looked like it had a 1950s hairstyle behind me. Of course, that could have been a 1970s male hairstyle too. I don't know. Just very pretty, very pleasant, very, of course now there's more cars on this road because there's one behind me too, and I'm just lollygagging around here, and a lot of these natives they're not retired, they're doing their, daily errands and things like that, and I just like hills like this. You see cattle, you see all kinds of little farms and cattle farms and little creeks and ponds and little Baptist church. Oh, there's a Presbyterian church, a lot of Baptist churches, of course, but not very many Catholics. But you see these a lot of really the archetypal white clapboard. Oh, look at this. There was a nativity scene up in that barn, inset in that barn on the top. That was cool. Probably didn't catch it on the camera, but there was no way I could stop. And it was on a curve and on a 2-lane road with no idea that the car behind me was still behind me and how far. So there's there's a little brick church. A little newer than a lot of the ones you'll see here. There's some goats and some, look like a ram with big curled horns. But very pretty to my right, to my left. Again, very different than the West in a sense, because of course there's more rain out here. And for the most part, more people. I mean, depending on where you are, but I think this area was probably first inhabited or first visited by Europeans that intended to stay right around the end of the Revolutionary War. As I go further northeast, of course, those dates get earlier and earlier. But when I left Newport, that was an area, and they had skirmishes with the Cherokee Indians, who were really predominant in this area prior to the European settlement. They had trouble with them all the way up to about in the early 1800s. Not as much. It waned a lot after the Revolutionary War was won in 1783. But because the British were no longer there, and a lot of the Cherokee were allies of the British, or other Indian groups too that were. And so I guess that's a brief little synopsis or history of the Native American and the Indians, American Indians, and the settlers here. So this area is, driving through the West, it's oftentimes 100 years later that all of that kind of occurred. It's a different feel in a sense, because it feels almost, not that I'm that old that I would remember that, but my oldest connection would be to my great-grandmother, whom I remember very well. And I was 8 years old when she died, but I still have a beanbag that she made me. She was a seamstress, and she died in 1966, and I was 8 years old. But I have recollections of her that are very vivid, and she was born in 1874. So 1874, the town I worked in, in Wyoming, Saratoga, back in the 70s, had only been founded.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto Cove Creek Road.
Yes, ma'am. Only turned right. I mean, only turned right. Only was founded in 1874, the year that she was born. And I was there as early as 1876. So it was 102 years. So that, you think about it. Back 102 years now, that's 1920, and there are people alive that from 1920. So it's just.
Take the next right onto Cove Creek Road.
I think that's well, here's a really cool church. I'm supposed to take it right here. This is a Lutheran church, believe it or not.
Continue for 3/4 of a mile.
Anyway, that's a pretty church. Kind of different from most of the churches down here. Maybe that's because it's Lutheran. There were a lot of Germans that settled this area too. Was basically German Scots-Irish, which means that they were originally from Scotland and they were forced or lured to go to Ireland, Northern Ireland, by the English kings who wanted to basically destroy Catholic Ireland. And they thought, well, we'll dilute it or we'll overwhelm it. But, anyway, a lot of those they misnomer Scots-Irish. It's Scotch-Irish. It's Scots-Irish. No CH. So anyway, those people came here, and a lot of them, the Germans from Pennsylvania that were in Pennsylvania, moved down along the Appalachians, and so a lot of the Scots-Irish didn't have, got here a little later. They didn't have the opportunity to get the northern part of the, around Gettysburg, actually, the Alleghenies. So they came into this area, and a little more hilly, a little more rocky.
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto Tennessee 351
I
North.
have to stop because listen to her. She said turn left, so I think I'm going to be on a bigger, faster road, so I may turn this off soon. But anyway, they didn't have the opportunity to get the best land. They had to keep moving on, and so they got much hillier land, more mountainous land, and weren't able to farm it like they would have in Pennsylvania in the north. So, anywho, yeah, I'm on a bigger, faster road, so I think that.
Continue on Tennessee 107 East for 3/4 of a mile.
Well, let's see if I go off onto a smaller road after that 3/4 of a mile. I don't really like taking videos of roads like this because they're really not interesting for the most part. I mean, yeah, I'm glad I'm in the Appalachians and it's hilly and it's sunny and it's, nice looking, but it doesn't have the same thing as either, an interesting urban area or a completely total rural area. So we'll see what road they have me turning off of, and that I may turn the video off as well, but we'll see. I should turn my talking off.
In a quarter mile, sharp right onto Parman Road.
Okay. I don't know why she comes through my radio sometimes and sometimes she doesn't. I don't know. That's a flaw. It's a flaw, but I don't know if it's a flaw in my phone or my car. Road should be coming up. I can't see the map. Usually I rely on the map, but I've reduced the map size just because I want the video to
Take the next right onto Parman Road.
Oh, here it is. Oh.
Continue on Parman Road for half a mile.
Oh, just on a half a mile on this road. I didn't know I was going. Oh, really cool barn. I didn't know where I was going. Coming up that hill, I couldn't see what was at the top of it. Whether it went straight or turned. Now, this is kind of a cool little road. But I won't be on this very long.
In a quarter mile, turn left onto Tennessee 351 North.
Yeah, when it has a number like 351, I think that it's probably going to be a bigger road. But this is kind of cool going through here. I'm glad I didn't turn the video off. That thing is so close to the road, it must have been built when this was like a little dirt path. This is my...
Take the next left onto Tennessee 351 North.
Again, this is a bigger road, so we'll see what she says as to my next move. I mean, I like every road here, probably except for the expressways, but some are more interesting than others, and I find the most interesting are the ones that are the most rural and most isolated, and not your 50 or 55 mile an hour 2-lane highway. So I'm probably going to turn this off. I didn't hear her say to turn off any road anytime soon, so I'm assuming that this may stay the way it is. This road as kind of a speedy 2-lane highway, which is fine, but a lot of times if I didn't take at least these kinds of roads, even though I don't take the expressways a lot of the time, if I didn't take these roads, it would take me a week to go 100 miles. So I suppose there's a necessity for these types of roads that just aren't the most conducive to producing very pleasant videos. I don't know if I'm capable of producing very pleasant videos, but the subject matter has to cooperate as well. So it doesn't when it's this. Although it's very pretty. I mean, you can see the mountains and the green grass and little homes here and there, and some cattle farms and such. I say farm because out west they call them ranches, because some of them, are like, well, we've got a small one. We've only got a 5,000 acre ranch. It's like, oh my God, that's like 8 times the size of Midway Airport. And that's small out there. So, and these literally are small. I mean, maybe they're 10, 20, 30, 40 acres. But they can support a lot more cattle because they get a lot more rain out here. So the grass is better and thicker, and they can graze more cattle on 10 acres than you could, out west on 1,000 acres because of the available natural vegetation. I'm sorry, I'm talking, and this is one of those things where I keep waiting for it to become more rural, but it's obviously not going to. I'm on this road for a while, I'm assuming, and it's not going to change until, I don't know when it's going to change. I have to look at my map again to see how I want to plot out after Elizabethton. I kind of put little benchmarks on my GPS so that I know for sure that I will not be taking the expressway. I'll hop from one city to the other city that really you can't get to from the expressway. Sometimes my GPS, will try to outsmart me, which is not hard to do, but and take me out of my way on the expressway to get back, because I think I have it set to time, not distance. So it's always trying to be the fastest. Well, that's not really always what I want. So I got to be vigilant about that and make sure that it's not taking me on the expressway. It does give you a preview of where you're going. So I look at the preview, and if it's on an expressway, then I have to figure out a different way to. I could always take it out and say distance as opposed, but then that'll screw me up later on when I really do need to get somewhere, and I hate to mess with it because I'm old and I can't figure these things out half the time. I know they exist, I know the options, but actually putting them into play is not always the easiest. All right, so I'm going to get up to that curve. If there's nothing after that curve, or it doesn't tell me I'm going off on a little road in about half a mile, I'm going to. I like these little buildings here. I mean, a lot of little clapboard buildings. It's rare to see a regular log cabin. There are some that I've seen that are actually historic in nature. Most of them are hewn, meaning they have like a square log, meaning they had a mill at least to able to do it. But those still could be 200 years old. And you see those every once in a while. Every once in a while, even rare, you'll see somebody that's still living in them. But again, you really have to get off the main road to see a lot of that stuff. I mean, most of the people, I think, since the 70s, if they had an old, dilapidated home of that age or even less, they got a trailer, single wide or a double wide, and that's what you see a lot of. Certainly not as pleasant to look at and encounter as an old log cabin or clapboard building, that was built in anywhere from 1840 to 1920. But that's the case. So I did say I was going to make that turn and see, but every little turn here makes me curious as to what's up next, and going up a little bit in elevation here, although I don't think that's permanent. I'm kind of riding, I think, in between the ridges of the Appalachians that I'm going, because they run northeast, southwest, and I'm running northeast, so I'm not really crossing mountains so much as just riding in the little valleys in between the ridges. That's my thought. Is what I'm doing. I could be totally wrong, but I haven't gone up and down any mountains or any elevations to speak of since I left Newport. Let's just see what kind of vista appears here. Let's see if it warrants. I like those trees on the left, those big pine trees. Those are huge. I think actually those are the size of some of the trees I got coming down on March 10th. Yikes. Yeah, there's an old home. I'm sure that's probably from the turn of the century. I mean, the last century. I mean, from the 19th to the 20th. Shoot, I keep turning off this video, but it's like I say, this is not an isolated area by any means. If you look to my right are the Appalachians, you can see in there, and I don't think there's many roads that cross them at that point. I mean, obviously the roads that across them here and there, but when I look directly right, you'd be hard pressed to find a road that would cross them. You probably got to go 10 miles north or south from where I am at to do that, and that's just pure conjecture on my part. But just that's from my visual, just looking at them. I know there's no east-west expressway that crosses them anywhere near here, but there may be some little roads you can get over. I mean, they're not that tall, 4,000 or 5,000 feet maybe, or 3,000 to 5,000 feet at most, but that still can cause issues with, it's hard to pave those roads, it's hard to maintain those roads, so maybe they're dirt roads, and then if you don't have a four-wheel drive, you're not really going to go anywhere. All right, I'm going to turn this off.